Well, if it's any indication from all the private messages I got on the group chat today, this is going to be a fiery conversation today. I'm very excited. Seems like everybody is excited to talk about the big pricing word. And I know some of you are thinking, and there's I talk to photographers all the time that say, Reed, you charge what you need to charge, let the market go where it is, and you just, that's not the client for you. And if that's what you feel, that's awesome. This is probably not going to be the podcast for you today. I do think pricing is important. And if you don't, I totally respect that. And I'm going to have a wonderful conversation with Ann Timms and Kat St. John coming up later this week about all the new makeup regulations. So if that is the podcast for you, and then this will not be the one for you. So, but I want to talk about pricing today. Let's go around and introduce everybody, and then we'll kind of talk about what spurred this whole thing off. Alan, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, and we'll go around.
Sure. I'm Alan Chitlik. I am a wedding DJ, and Puget Sound DJ is my company name.
And Jen?
Hi, I'm Jen Tai from Jennifer Tai Photo Artistry. I'm a wedding photographer. And Seattle's my market.
And Irene was just on 2 weeks ago talking about micro weddings. Welcome back. Who are you?
Hey, I am Irene Jones of IJ Photo, and I'm happy to be here again, Reed. Love hanging out with you.
Awesome. Well, thanks, guys. Some weeks, and we're trying to produce this week to week now. This is week 13, episode 13 of this, and trying to figure out topics every week. And sometimes, I'm trying to figure out, okay, what's going on with COVID or what's up with whatever. And then some weeks it just kind of slaps me in the face. And I woke up yesterday in a online group looking through everything on Facebook. And it's billed as like a support group for, brides and grooms and people planning weddings. And I saw this post, and I don't want to get too much into the specifics, but just to kind of, I do actually kind of want to go through it a little bit, and that'll kind of be what spurs all this today. And this is videographer, special 50% off. And, right off the bat, they're talking about, they know that COVID hit, a lot of people are struggling. And so they want to offer 50% off their services across the board. And so, I have a problem with that and we'll get into all this about, the COVID thing. And this includes, a 5-minute highlight video, 8 hours coverage, drone coverage, vows and speeches in the final video, and then a 4-week turnaround. So I think I sent this to Irene. Jen, what would you think the pricing on a package like that, 8-hour coverage, drone, highlight video, kind of a standard, Seattle videography package?
Oh my God, that sounds like a 10,000, 12,000 thing to me. But that's because I know how hard video is. It's way harder than photography, Well,
so this was for $750 plus travel.
Oh my God.
and the reason why, and people, and we don't want to get in, it's not supposed to be a shaming thing today. We're going to get into all this. We had our drone guy come out last weekend. He is a phenomenal drone guy. He works for hoarders. When he's in town, I use him for weddings. I pay him like $500 for, like 2 hours of drone stuff. So just to put that in perspective, $750 for whatever, $500 for that. So, and I reached out to this guy and I said, wow, that's kind of low. And basically his response, and this is when we'll toss it to the panel, I get a lot. There's enough work for everybody. Leave it alone. I'm trying to get my thing. So Irene, and I had messaged you about this too. What do you think about that when it's just this like, well, there's enough business for everybody. Let me do what I want to do.
Well, there's a lot of people getting married still, even in the midst of COVID, but that doesn't mean that you're really putting your best foot forward there. If I was a bride or a groom or a couple and I saw something like that, my first thought would be, there's a catch. This person is a mattress salesman and they're about to go out of business, or, or there's something going on there that doesn't feel right. Like that kind of discount really raises a lot of red flags for me on the quality that I'm going to get and the service that I'm going to get. How can they do that and afford to feed their family is my first thought.
Jen, what do you think about that? Kind of hearing this for the first time.
I agree. It sounds fishy, and definitely agree with all of that.
And Alan, what do you, as kind of a bystander?
How often in life do you hear the phrase, you get what you pay for? And how often in life have you heard that, or found that to be true, right? You are not going to get a Lamborghini for $500. And I think if I'm a couple looking at wedding vendors, what I want to shop for is value and integrity. And if somebody comes in with a price that just seems too good to be true, there should be some big questions about why that is.
Why does it still, though, this still prevail all the time? I guess, and I wish if we knew the answers, we wouldn't have these questions. But why is it still that people think that they're going to get, you know, caviar dinner for like a McDonald's budget? What is that saying, right? Or like,
I think if they know the price of caviar. The problem here is not a lot of people know the price of videography, you know, and I think most people, when they are starting to shop, you know, they haven't done their research and anything, like, wow, $750, and they think that that's what it costs, you know, or maybe, yeah, and they were like, oh yeah, that sounds like it's doable, you know, and that kind of sets the tone for it, and that's when our work is like kind of re-educating everybody. It's hard from there, you know, if they see that. I think they just don't know better, clients, right?
Yeah, I agree with Jennifer. Like, so many people are doing this for the first time, and they come into looking at wedding prices and they've already got sticker shock because they've never planned a wedding before. They've never thought about the cost of all of these extravagant things that they want to do. And they probably have a budget in mind, and then they have to do a lot of renegotiating with how that's going to work out and fit their dreams. So when they hear something's going to be 50% off, they're thinking, oh, thank God, this is my miracle. So I don't blame couples at all. I think we have a responsibility as vendors to not only have a living wage for everybody, but at the same time to be working towards helping our clients be educated and understand the value in what we put out there. So much of what we do isn't a tangible product, it's an experience. And that is very hard to put a physical number on.
I think that's a good point where you said that it's not the couple's fault, it's the vendor's fault, because, you know, it's not supposed to be, you know, shaming people for trying to get like a good deal, but it is like, you know, it's how do we educate? I don't know. How do you educate that?
I think putting out information is like, I have a pricing article, you know, on my site, you know, that's accessed a lot, and it gives realistic prices on photography across our region, you know, and sets a range. I don't set like a specific, I say like $4,000 to $10,000, depending on hours of coverage, deliverables, you know, quality, experience, and stuff like that. You know, that's a good, I think putting out information like this podcast and making sure that it's found, you know, I think that's the hard thing. I don't know where to look at.
You're good. That right there. You look there. That's perfect.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I think as vendors are just continuing to put out quality information is important, right? And making sure that it's found. Other than that, I don't know, you know, what can we do? What do you think, Irene?
I want to hear from Alan. He's really good at this stuff.
Well, I think one of the huge challenges is that mostly couples are planning one wedding one time for the first and only time. So as you mentioned earlier, there is some sticker shock. And sometimes that just takes some education about everything that goes into what we do. And a photographer doesn't just come out and shoot for 8 or 10 hours. I don't even know. Is it 40 hours of editing or just whatever that is afterwards? Like, it's a lot. It's a lot of work that you guys do. And I hope that couples will take the approach of being sort of open-minded and finding what goes into some of these things. If I were a couple, I know everybody's got a budget and they've got to try and stay in that. They're just not going to be able to print out more money so that they can have the most expensive wedding ever. But I'd want to survey people in the categories that I felt were particularly important to find out what the range is, and where are the beginners on that range, and where are the really experienced professionals on that range, and how will that impact me? And in particular, I would select a few vendors that I really, really wanted to have confidence in, that I really professionalism is going to be, I would start not by having a budget and then finding somebody that could work in that. Find out what the budget is. Find out what the good professionals cost. And maybe you can find some value in there, but work from that. Take the vendors that you think are going to be super important to you and figure out how to make that work financially. And if it means that you sacrifice on something that's not a priority for you, you're going to be way better off. And for me, if I'm walking into my wedding day and I know that I've got a team that's good and they've got my back, how confident do I feel? Right? Like, I know I'm going to have a great day because these guys have done hundreds of weddings and they'll help me. They'll get me where I need to be. In contrast, if you find people who are offering deals that seem unbelievable or seem desperate for income, to me, it's not a very good sign that they're going to be particularly effective or professional on your day. So I would sort of approach that, as a couple. That's how I would approach it.
Yeah, it's interesting that we had just a small elopement last night at Salish Lodge, and everyone was referred from kind of everyone else. And it was kind of a last minute thing. They just decided to, I don't know why, but they did like a 2-hour thing, last night. And it was so cool because, she had, tried to do her best to not, to take referrals, right. And, everyone was kind of doing it for, it wasn't like a steal, but it was a good deal for a Tuesday. What are you doing from 6 to 8? But it was so interesting to watch her because it was Salish Lodge, it was Mike Tobolsky, it was Ray Van Winkle, it was me, and like everyone there, had known each other, and like it's like Salish had referred Mike, and then Mike had referred me, and then they had referred Ray, and like everybody, and seeing her, because we hadn't, like, she came down the aisle, we got married, and then we kind of were doing all the chit chat afterward, but seeing that like confidence in her and like realizing like, oh my God, like I really kind of lucked into it more or less, but still like got this really great team, right? And it wasn't even about the money, it was just about like, and like I heard Ray, because they were like doing the paperwork, and he said some really nice stuff about me, which was nice because he had just been on the podcast a couple weeks ago. But it was just nice to like see her get like super jazzed about that and be like, oh my gosh, like I actually did get really good, I'm going to be taken care of, versus like we have a wedding this weekend where the photographer justifiably is not, there's some COVID stuff and they're not going to do it. And so they found this like, last minute, whatever. And every correspondence I've had with the bride since this has happened is like, well, like this person's coming now, like we're settling for this, like we have to do this, like we're not really, and you can just tell like that excitement is gone. And, so, you want, the point is, you want people, like Alan said, you want to be jazzed and you want to have like that team around you that's going to support you.
And go ahead.
I think you make a good point, Reed, is that there are ways to get discounts and there are ways to get good deals, but they're more about thinking outside the box and still getting quality vendors instead of expecting a vendor to just give you a discount because you ask or because you're special for some particular reason. That's always my favorite question. Can I get a discount? And I'm like, for what? What are we doing the discount for? I don't have a nice guy discount. Everybody's a nice guy.
I think the other thing that you were touching on, Reed, was that's just educating your clients. What about educating other photographers? Is that what you wanted to touch on as well?
Yeah, I mean, because you guys fight against it, and Alan and I were talking about this yesterday too, where you said, Alan, like, I don't know if DJs really, where it seems like every day there's a new photographer that's got like a new deal and a new thing. Like, is that accurate statement that I'm making?
Yes.
Alan?
Yes.
Oh yeah, but sometimes the DJs don't have to offer 50% off because they're already at a very, very low end of the spectrum anyway. And if you've ever been to a wedding with a bad DJ, you get what you pay for, or you don't get what you don't pay for.
So yeah, so for Jen and Irene, I mean, what is, with all these photographers, and I'm in a totally different boat too, because like, there's new videography companies that pop up, but it's totally separate. I mean, it's like every day there's a new photographer. I mean, how do you guys, and like I said at the beginning of the podcast, the whole thing is, well, just, you just do what you need to do. And that, because I was talking with Dorothy about this last night. She said, what are you recording tomorrow? And I said, I totally agree that if, like for wedding videography, like if you're Ray Roman, who's like this world-renowned wedding videographer, has done like presidential weddings, flies to Italy. Okay, he doesn't need to worry about like other people pricing and whatever. But I think for like 85 to 90% of us, I do think it is applicable, right? I think that we all, because whether you're competing against them or they're drawing that perceived value down. So what do you guys think about that? Irene?
I think it's good for us as an industry to be understanding of what the market can bear and where our competition is, and also what we need to be profitable. And that's just basic business skills. And a lot of times people get into photography specifically because they're creative and they're passionate and they love to be behind the camera. And those things are well and good if you are running as a hobbyist. But a lot of us, like myself and Jennifer, have been doing this a long time, and we like feeding our children. It's just a personal preference.
And now paying for college.
Yeah, lots of college over here too. And so we have to understand the basics of where our numbers are at, so that when we find ourselves in a position where maybe we need to build a custom package, or maybe there is someone that we can see offering a discount to for a particular reason. I can't say that I've never offered discounts. I can say that I offer them specifically and selectively depending on the scenario. That if we fall into those situations, we have the leeway. We know what our numbers are at. I know that I'm going to have enough money to pay my taxes, pay myself, and make sure that I don't go under. I mean, this year is a rough year for most people in the photography industry. And if you're on a volume-based model where you're trying to get as many clients as possible, and so you've got lower prices, you've seen your volume disappear, which means you're going, crap, now what the hell do I do? And so you're struggling. You have to kind of think ahead of those things and go, okay, how do I find the right volume and the right price point so that when those things collide, when we end up with a pandemic, I can still feed my family and take care of my needs. So it's really a personal thing. Each of these photographers and videographers and anybody in any industry really just needs to know their numbers and be aware that pricing yourself just under the guy who you think that you're slightly better than in your field isn't a real business model.
Yeah, I think the two things that a lot of photographers and maybe videographers or anybody in the service industry is that you forget that you're in the service industry and that it's not scalable. It's not selling something that you can mass produce. It's not selling stock photography where you can take one photo and you post it up and then you can resell it. This is very specific. That wedding photo that I took of you, I can't resell it to anybody else. So it's very, very service oriented to that one artist, and it's not scalable. So if you are not going to know your numbers properly and work out exactly how much you can work, how much time you want to take off per year, and what your hours are worth, what your time is worth, it's not going to work long term. And you're just going to either burn out or I don't even know, if you just need to take a business class on how to be a service provider,
Well, and like you said,
can I add one more thing? As a bride or a groom or a couple, I would be terrified in that scenario. And I have seen and heard too many horror stories of people saying, oh, my sister's wedding photographer was a fly-by-night kind of guy, and we thought we were getting a good deal, but really we never got the photos that we want, or it took 9 months, or they disappeared completely. And that's a real problem. So you need to be really, as a couple, vetting these vendors hard, because there are a lot of people within this industry that will take advantage of you.
And in my field in particular, DJing, I mean, there's so many stories, horror stories about, oh, well, my brother's frat buddy was going to DJ and he didn't show up. Or, I'm sure the three of you have seen many, many bad DJs. But that's what happens. if I can, I want to share one more story with you. I had a recent occasion where a vendor who is somewhat widely known for 50% off, has been discounting quite a bit. A couple changed their date because of COVID, and they changed it to a Tuesday night, but he said he couldn't come. So he sent someone else, another videographer, and that videographer was so uncommitted, I can hardly even tell you. In the planning process, the bride had told me that it was very special to her to dance with her mom to Brown Eyed Girl. It was the third really parent dance. She danced with her dad, groom danced with his mom. But during open dancing, they were going to dance together for Brown Eyed Girl. So when Brown Eyed Girl came on, I looked around for him, and he was sitting in a chair on his phone. And I went up to him and I said, by the way, you should know this is an important moment to the bride. And he's like, oh, well, I can't really use the footage because of copyright law, which isn't true. And he literally didn't get up, didn't film it. They will have no record of that. And I feel there's a direct correlation to the integrity of this original videographer and the results that this poor bride's going to have. And I feel bad for him.
Yeah, it's tough because, and that's the thing too, that when you're doing these discounts or people are asking for discounts, you have to be incentivized, and that was even with a lot of these ones where we had weddings, for this year, we had a lot of, discount, like Seattle Wedding Show, which is a great way to do a discount. Wedding shows is a great way to, if you're trying to, we're trying to help brides and grooms here, that's a great way to get discounts, right? Meet people at the shows, book within 30 days, great way to get like 10% off or whatever, to kind of incentivize,
coming to the show.
Yeah. And,
at the show.
And like, if I drop, $5,000 on my wedding show booth or whatever it is for the sponsor, I like to know, okay, the next month, okay, I just booked 5 or 6, it makes me feel a little bit better about it. But anyway, it's a great way to do that. But we had a lot of these weddings that got moved to next year. And, I had to reach out to those couples and say, we need to kind of figure out here if we need to do an upgrade or whatever, because this needs to work for both, us and you guys, where I need to be incentivized to hold this date for another 2 years for you, or a year and a half or whatever. Right. And it's not even trying to be rude. Like I said, trying to offer like upgrades, at a discount or whatever, to try to be like, this package that you've already paid 25% on with it, with the discount, to hold that balance for a year and a half, we got to figure out something here to make it work for everybody, so, but that's what couples don't get too. Oh, I'm going to book someone for $700 and then they don't show. We'll wonder why they didn't show. Well, it's probably because they figured out something else that they wanted to do that day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I think incentivizing and having a reason, like what Irene said, for a discount is super important, not just for COVID. I feel like, it has to be more than that. It has to be intentional. It has to be already worked into your whole pricing structure, that you've already made preparation for this, and not just out of your, out of thin air. That's just poor planning.
Well, that's actually great advice, where I can't remember one of the first years, I think when we bumped up to the sponsor or whatever, that we were really going to do a big, spend a lot of money at the show. I said, well, I'm going to raise my prices, 10 or 15% or whatever. So then I can give that discount where it feels better for them, but it's kind of the same difference, right? For me, but like, I'm going to bump that up, like you said, trying to like plan that stuff ahead, then just be like, oh, okay, well, what do I need? What do I need for rent this month or whatever? Okay, let's try to book something. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I was just helping a friend of mine redo her prices, and she did not have it all broken down. Like when I did my prices like 10 years ago, I broke everything down per hour, all the deliverables and all that, and I price it like there's a volume discount. If you book me for an hour, it's $1,200 for a family session, but if you book me for 8 hours, it becomes $500 per hour, so that it's the same price as the wedding or whatever, so that when you try and book your existing couples for a family session later, they're not going to ask you, why did you just charge me $500 an hour for a wedding per hour, and then this is like whatever amount, like $1,200. That's because you booked me for 8 hours. You can book me for 8 hours again for a family session, and I'll give you $500 an hour. But if you're going to just book me for an hour, there must be a return on investment for me to go out and shoot. For that 1 hour, there's travel, there's post production. It's the same amount of time and investment that I make on my business. So once you have broken down everything, then you can work in all your discounts and everything, and mathematically it works. It works for you to run a business. You can't just, like I said, just pull a discount out of nowhere.
Well, that was like Alan and I were talking this wedding, for the I can't remember if I told this before we started recording or not, but we were going to have a wedding Friday, and then it got canceled because of COVID, and they're still trying to do it. And she had just called me this morning and wanted me to come up to Camino Island. And, like Jen said, even if it's an hour session or whatever, so they want to do a live stream ceremony, to get up to Camino Island on a Friday at 5. And like I was telling Alan, plus, Dorothy and I had, like a date night plan. So there's, upset wife tax too. You got to add that on. But that's what you say. It's not, it's not. And we've done the live streams now for months. And like when I show up, and like the mother of the bride or whoever paid for it, like they see, oh, wow, this is why it costs so much. Cause you show up, but it's trying to educate, and maybe I haven't done as good a job on that either with educating the, just the tremendous amount of work. But like, yeah, it's people think, oh, I just want to book for, this, just a tiny little amount of time. It's like, yeah, but I got to get there and do all that.
And it's not just the gas, it's not just gas, it's your time driving, an hour of your time that you could be doing something else. So you have to charge for that time. You've got to charge for the gas. You've got to charge for the, maintenance for your car, like all these little things, and you build a sheet for yourself to let yourself see what you're actually, the time and travel. It's not just, oh, why is it $150 for you to drive an hour out for us? It's not just gas,
Irene, go ahead.
I think live streaming is a perfect example of a service that people will quote a massively different amount. Like there are some people who are trying to live stream and they're just going to put their phone on a tripod.
Yeah.
Have a relative do it or something like that. First off, if it's just the pure cell signal, you're really risking that it won't even be able to go out successfully. Second of all, your sound is going to be terrible if it's just from the phone. And you can go all the way up to the spectrum. I happen to know Reed spent a lot of money. He's got hotspots for all of the major cell phone companies, and he's adjusted a lot of his equipment to make sure that he can deliver. So if you are doing a live stream and you hire Reed, you're going to get it. You're going to have a good angle. You're going to that your guests who are on the internet are going to be able to see everything and hear everything nicely. And couples don't always understand that. And so I think it's incumbent on us to try to explain it, but it's also great if a couple approaches it with an open mind. What do I get for this? Is this going to work for me?
Yeah, a great example for what you're talking about, Ellen, was I shot a elopement on a boat last weekend, and guests could not hear anything because of the wind, because they had just duct taped their iPads onto the mast and whatnot, and they had like 4 iPads going on, and some of the iPads are new, they bought it for this reason, right? But there was no, they didn't think about the sound, so the guests had typed into the thing, we can't hear anything because of the wind, and we were in the middle of the sea,
That's awesome.
So I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, that's true, I didn't even think of it, but that's because I'm not a videographer, I'm a photographer, and I didn't know how to fix that. How do you do that when it's too late,
You can't. Irene, you had the point you were going to make before?
Yeah, I was going to say that we're talking little shops. We may have lost some of the brides and grooms at this point. But I mean, if I was a couple, I would definitely want to pay for someone's expertise. Like, I want to know that you've got your stuff together. You understand all the different scenarios. Monday, I was shooting at Woodmark, and they had this gorgeous tent and a beautiful view of the water. But at 5 o'clock, that water hits that sunshine and it is blaring hot and it is all silhouettes. But I know how to shoot there because I've done it before. So I'm able to put up the lights and kind of fill in. And the groom commented to me, she's like, "Oh, I would have never thought you would need to do that." I'm like, "Yeah, that's kind of what you're paying for. You're paying for my ability to be able to take any circumstance I'm thrown at and then make it what you're imagining." And the reverse of that is when you pick a vendor that is maybe a lower budget vendor, often they're looking at you as just a dollar sign. And we think it's the opposite. We think that the higher price vendors are just looking at you as a dollar sign, but that's not true. They're asking to be paid that because they understand how much they want to serve you. They want to provide you with top-notch customer service. They understand the hours that go into the editing or even just emails and phone calls. And they're going to provide you with that level of expertise and that level of customer service that you really can't necessarily put a value dollar on, but you know that they can. So you got to trust people when they say, "This is what I'm worth. This is what you're going to get from it," and go from there. But if you see someone who's on that volume model and who's just going to try to run through 7 weddings a week, kind of scenario, they're really just looking at you like you're a price tag. And I personally wouldn't want to put my important event, especially a life event as valuable as a wedding, in the hands of someone that did not honestly care about me.
That's a great point. Talking about the people that charge less is viewing it more as a dollar sign than the people that, because I agree with that. I think that all of us spent, Alan, we were talking again, the wedding, the COVID one that canceled, Alan had put in hours of, work before that, and then to have it cancel and not even, and a lot of people, unrightfully so, think, oh, a DJ just shows up and they play music, right? But you got, all the pre-pro and the figuring out the song list and the meeting and the booking and the, driving to the meetings and all this different stuff that, it was just an interesting point, Irene, that you had, I thought.
Yeah, and it's like for photography, you have to scout the place ahead of time. Even if you know the venue, sometimes, things change. You haven't shot there for like a couple of months, maybe they've put up a tent, maybe they've taken down the tent, there's a lot of pre and post work that we do that's invisible.
I just think it's so important to do your research and price shop. And I'm in my office here, and because like we've said before, people that get married, you have no idea. It's like remodeling the kitchen or whatever, right? You have no idea like what that's going to cost. And I have this blind. My office faces like the sun, and so like all day when the sun sets, it gets like 1,000,000 degrees in here. And so I wanted to get like a shade, like a sunshade, to like block the whatever. And so this was like back in February, March. And so I called and got this guy, and he came out, and he was like crazy. Like it was like $4,000 or whatever. It was like nuts, but he was going to like mount it on the side of the house, and it was going to be electric and solar powered and plugged in, and I could just like flip a switch. And I was like, that's like awesome that you do that. And I saw the photos, and they have, these beautiful houses. And so I'm like, that's not for me, but I definitely understand like what, if I had, $1 million house or whatever, why I would want to have that, on the side of my house. And then I found a guy that was like, just draping a sheet or whatever. And, right. And you're like, okay, well, I also don't want, I don't want to look like, I'm living back on Del Ridge, like I used to in West Seattle. My neighbor always makes fun. But, and then I ended up getting this really nice, it's like a nice white hangs inside thing. And it was like, I don't know, like $1,000. I mean, it's still not cheap, but it wasn't $4,000 and it wasn't $500 or whatever, but doing that, cause I have no idea. And that my point is all these people that, you're planning the wedding or anything else, you have no idea. And so if I had sat there and said, well, I'm going to spend $1,000 on a shade 6 months ago, I would have said, well, that's crazy. But then once you do the research and you figure out, okay, well, I don't want this, or I want that, or I want, but I would just encourage anybody to do that sort of process and figuring out, what is important and what's not.
Yeah, I think a good starting point is don't get your advice from somebody who's going to charge you $750 for an 8-hour thing. Try and Google and try and talk to your friends who've gotten married. Try and get like a middle and a high price and a low price point. Talk to at least 3 people, before you decide. And the likelihood of somebody who's been doing it a long time, who's charging like medium to high range, will have some good, information for you. And then you can look at the 750 person if you want, but yeah, definitely do a lot of research.
Yeah, we just got a roof
beyond
on our
Google.
house, and I would not have just picked the first roofer.
Yeah.
I know nothing, literally nothing about roofing when I started this process. Now I could tell you a lot about shingles that I did not know 4 weeks ago, but I got a good roof going on, and I'm comfortable with the people that are doing it because they explained things thoroughly to me. They helped educate me in what roofing is all about, and they treated me really good, like the fantastic customer service. I got a text every Monday for 4 weeks saying, "Hey, your job's still on schedule. We're still planning on coming out. We've still got the materials.
That's
we just
awesome.
want to let you know we still care about you." And I'm like, dude, I'm paying for this, and I'm happy to pay for this.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to ask Irene about, and we had talked about this before, with these COVID deals right now and all this, this looming recession and everything that's going on, you had gone through the 08, everything like that. And I think there's obviously definitely similarities, right? So what advice for you for, vendors, couples, both sides, whatever, but like, just seeing, I just every day now I just see, discounts and everyone, trying to cut all these prices to make up. And they, and they're claiming, well, we're doing this for the couple, right? Hey, we're trying to help you out, but they're helping themselves out. Right. So what's your advice having lived through all this before?
Yeah, so I've been shooting weddings since 2000, so I did go through the big recession, and I, at that point, was still a little greener than I am right now, and I had some issues where I thought to myself, yeah, I'm going to try discounting. I did that. That's why I know it's not a good call, and I remember very distinctly having a conversation with a bride who I loved her. She was my target client, and she, at the very end of our conversation, she goes, "I want to book with you, but I have one question. Why is this 40% off?" I didn't go 50, I went 40. And I didn't have a good answer for her besides the fact that I wanted business. And I thought, if I just do more business, this will somehow work out. And I had to take a really hard look at it and be honest with her and just go, well, I just need to work. And she's like, I don't know if I'm comfortable with that. And that really hit me. And I was like, okay, I have to do some serious thought. And so I did more work. I went back to a little bit of school, got a little more into the business side of it, and said to myself, okay, I'm going to make sure that I know my numbers and that I never have to do something that feels dishonest to a client, because honesty and integrity is really important to me. And just having a discount for no reason felt dishonest. But I knew, and I still know, that I have to have a certain number of weddings. I have to have a certain number of hours to be able to pay all of my bills. And I don't want to just break even, because breaking even does not put my kids through school. I don't want to pay a client to do their wedding, which can happen if you do this wrong. Because I don't need the portfolio, and I understand building a portfolio and how that works. You put yourself a little bit lower, hoping for a little return for yourself. But the thing that really helped me weather it was just being honest with my clients and saying, hey, this is how I work. This is what you're going to get from me that I can offer you that nobody else can. Yes, price is the only thing you've thought about so far, because that's the only thing you know to pick on. But let me offer you some actual value. And the value came in not necessarily the dollar signs, but what was included in that. And there's a lot of ways that we can increase value for clients without necessarily decreasing price. One of the things that I love to do is I love to donate to charity. And so one of the things that my business is based on is I do photography and philanthropy. And I tell my clients that every single wedding I do, a portion of the proceeds are going to go to a charity that you feel comfortable with. And those are all listed on my website. And people that come to me and say, I love this angle, are more than happy to pay that because they know that the price includes doing some good somewhere and they're not stressed about it. And I'm not cutting it out of my salary per se, because like I said, we're still eating. And it's just a good balance. It's knowing that business is a part of this creative process, and we love being a part of the creative part of weddings, but we also at the same time really love doing a good job. And I can't keep doing a good job if I'm not paying myself and if I'm not charging enough to make a living.
Well, and what you were talking to about, the discounts and working, and that's kind of what kills me now too, is these people, well, I'm trying to build a portfolio or whatever. I mean, I was talking with Alan about this yesterday. We just had a wedding. I had a wedding on the 15th, and I don't know if I'm going to use that right in my portfolio. It's a wonderful wedding. They did everything by the rules, but it's, Alan and I were talking about, does that embody the feeling, right? In 2 years when you're trying to plan your wedding and you see this wedding and the distance and the mass and everything, even though it's beautiful and it followed the rules, is that, you know what I'm saying? And so it's not even really right now, like people, this whole, I just need like portfolio work. It's like, well, I don't really think that we're going to be blowing up the internet with all these, mass photos for the next, you know what I mean? So it's like, so you really are just doing it for the money right now, right? Like it's not even, well, and we're doing it for the love of the client and all of that. But, but it's not like, hey, well, I got a discount right now, I need a portfolio work. It's like, no, you're just doing it because you don't have money right now,
Well, if they're doing, I feel like if they want to offer something like affordable to people, maybe reduce the hours. Like you want to charge $750, shoot for 2 hours. That's still portfolio worthy. I feel. Just try and make something that is monetarily and business sound. You don't shoot for 8 hours for $750 for a student. Find something that I don't know if he is booking for at this price for next year or the year after or
anything
the 8 hours. Yeah, because nobody's having an 8-hour wedding now.
Well, that's also essentially, but yeah, and it was, but it's for everything, like book within a week for no matter when. Well, what does that tell you? Right?
Oh, okay. Got it. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like you can totally build a portfolio, but just find a price that you think that is affordable, but maybe offer less. It has to make sense, right?
Yeah, that's a great point, Jennifer. I think there's lots of people out there that think that, I have to spend $4K or I'm not going to be able to get anything. But I work with lower budget clients all of the time. I just don't work as long.
Yeah. Less deliverables, maybe, no second shooter, no highlight reel, whatever it is, you can spend within your means, but just adjust your expectations, and see what you need, because sometimes you may not need 8 hours of coverage. You may just need 5 or 6, you don't need that many dancing photos. Maybe you don't need getting ready, whatever. Right.
No, and that was even like our one last night. I showed my mom the photo, and it was 2 hours. It was not an expensive wedding, and my mom said, "Wow, that's beautiful. Like that's so amazing." And I'm like, "Here, like that didn't hardly cost him anything for us all to come out."
Yeah.
I mean, you figure, I don't know what Salish cost, but they were under $2,000 for us to come out. Just for like the ceremony and a couple photos outside. I mean, it's really not that. Whatever. So, Alan has private messaged me a question here which I think is good. And I think we'll toss it to Alan. What are some tips about how couples can save money, but still get good quality service?
Well, and what I was thinking about, what spurred this is an offer that seemed like it's too good to be true, right? But couples are looking at budgets, and that's a big challenge. So, I mean, I think a couple things that couples can do. First, avoid Saturdays in the summer, right? Like those are definitely going to be the most expensive times to get married. So if you are willing to get married off season, and different vendors will have different definitions of that, but it's pretty clearly November to April. And, May and October, you can decide whether that's in season or out of season. I think with all the competition for 2021 dates, the idea of getting married on a weeknight is going to be way more popular. And I feel like most venues and most vendors are going to be willing to make that more economically feasible for couples. So I think that's certainly worth considering. And there are some times where there are sneaky dates, depending on when July 4th occurs. Maybe you're getting married on the Thursday, but nobody's working on the next day or something like that. Or I've had people who got married the day before or the day after Thanksgiving because many of their friends were going to be coming into town for that. So I think that idea of being creative with your date is probably the easiest thing that you can do to save money and still get to work with high quality professionals and get the results that you would expect from that. And then each field will have different things that you may or may not be able to save money on. Jen was mentioning a lot of great things that you could potentially look at from your photography budget and figure out, do you need that many hours? Do you need a second shooter? What are the things that could make that more affordable for you?
Yeah, I have a lot of clients that love albums. I do a ton of albums, but they'll wait a year to get their album, and it's really no different. They still get all the great stuff, but it spreads the cost out and amortizes it a little bit, which is helpful.
And then there's the silver lining with what you're saying, Alan, with COVID as well, because people are working remotely, they're working from home, there are no office hours anymore. So you can potentially have your wedding on a weekday, if your guests and your friends, who are coming to the wedding are able to, a majority of them are like working from home or whatever you call it, a silver lining. I think it's a great idea, a great suggestion, Alan.
And I'm sure if you talk to caterers, there's great ways to save on catering as well. A lot of it depends on what meal they're serving and the type of foods. I mean, a lunch buffet is cheaper than a dinner buffet. End of story.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm just going to call you Sneaky Al from now on. I like that.
Okay, please do.
Give the sneaky days. But we've been talking about this a lot lately on the podcast and just, really being creative. I guess our thing last night, it was like 6 to 8. They got married. I mean, there was 7 with the officiant. And
it's a Tuesday.
Yeah. And then they cut a cake. And then I said, to the groom Rex, I said, so are you guys, staying here? He's like, oh yeah, we got dinner reservations, upstairs at Salish, and then we're going to stay here tonight. And I'm like, you can't tell me that's not an awesome night, right? You can't tell me that wasn't everything. They got the view, they got the photo, video, they got some great portraits. I mean, you can't tell me that for that it wasn't, and I know that that's not for everybody, but it's right now. I mean, I think that is as sweet as you can do for, a Tuesday night in August and being able to basically have any vendors and, venue you wanted, I mean, I don't know if you could get Salish on a Saturday in August at, last minute like that,
Yeah, I think couples really have to decide whether or not they want all this quantity over quality, right? If you can spend $750 on like a quality 2-hour footage or 1-hour footage, versus 8 hours of you don't know what you're going to get.
Any other topics that I haven't brought up before we go? I know that there was a lot of fire coming into this. I want to make sure we got everything. I want to make sure we got it all. I mean, I guess to be serious, final takeaways, advice, because like I said, I don't want it to be, it's not supposed to be shaming. Everybody needs to start somewhere. But I think, like Irene said, having discounts for no reason. I think, playing the COVID thing when everybody is struggling. I think just being wary if you feel weird. I've talked with so many couples. We got this photographer, or we have this DJ, or not DJ, a video. I took one a couple weeks ago that the mother of the groom had said, we've been talking with this guy and we just I don't feel right about it. And I said, I don't know who they were. I have no really any context of any of it. Nothing was signed, but she just said, we just don't feel good. and she said, you know, we asked our DJ and they referred you, and we just wanted to feel good about it, right? And so if you feel that way, then I think that there's probably a reason you're feeling that way. So
I think one more point I wanted to add was like, actually, you know, because most of our couples are postponing to 2021, it's actually even more pricey, I would say. You know, there is really, for the established vendors, there really is no reason to give a discount just because, you know, we are basically booked to the gills for 2021 because of all the weddings that moved from this year to next year. You know, we're scrambling to like kind of find dates for our couples. So if you're really, if anybody's ever telling you that, you know, oh, you know, because of COVID, here's a great deal for you, just know that all the good vendors are really, really booked for 2021. A discount doesn't seem really logical to me for an established vendor to go about it.
Alan, what do you think?
Well, I think if I'm a couple, I really want to select at least some of my vendors that I know are rock solid and full of integrity and going to be in business for the long term. Mm-hmm. And that involves having a business plan, and that involves figuring out what is the fair value for the services that you provide. And so I hope that couples will take that into account as they look at what's out there. And, you know, we'll go back to that one cliche one more time. If it sounds good to be true, you know the rest.
Irene, what do you think?
I got two things, one for vendors and one for couples. So if you're a vendor and you're out there trying to make it work, reach out to someone who is in your industry, who's in your field, and befriend them that's been in there longer and ask them questions. I know Jennifer and myself are both the type of people that want to help everybody in the industry come up. And if you're not sure about pricing, talk to somebody. And let's help you get to where you need to be so you can do what you love and you can get paid what you deserve to get paid. And then you don't have to try to do these kind of ad hoc things that really are long-term detrimental to your business. We love you guys. We want all of your vendors to succeed. I don't see any other photographer or videographer as a threat. I see them as somebody who loves the same things that I love.
And remember, you need a community, you know, you need a community because you really can't go into this pissing people off, you know, with half-assed pricing, right? You want a community because you can only shoot one wedding a day. So if somebody else that you love and loves you back, you know, has another inquiry, you want that to be referred. So you want to create a community and a network of peers, right? And price cutting and stuff like that, it's not a good way to go about it.
And then finally, for couples, my advice to you guys is do what Alan suggested earlier and find out what's really important to you. Have a conversation, put your goals together, and then focus on that, and then let the expectations for the other things go. One of the keys to happiness in life is having low expectations. At least that's worked for me so far. But if you're flexible in your expectations, then you can't be disappointed by the things that you're missing. You can really only see the good things that are happening. COVID has given us all an opportunity to really be grateful for what we have, the people that we love, and the people that are important to us. Take that into account instead of the dollar signs and worrying about those other things, and really find the way that you can be happy and enjoy the loved one that you're committing to. After all, your wedding is a beautiful thing. And all of us in the industry, and especially the four of us here, we want to make sure that that works out really well for you.
That's good. Anything else? No, we're doing good. I think that's all great points. And it just, if nothing else has been shown in the last 6 months, I think this community is, word travels very quickly. And so I think that, yeah, like you said, reaching out, asking questions and things, being a positive, trying to get your portfolio built in a positive way, trying to book clients, people know and talk to everybody. And so I think it's a lot smaller world than people think. And so, yeah, I agree with all of that. So thank you guys all so much for being here and kind of hopping on this today. I don't think we got too out of line. I think it was good.
Sorry for swearing or saying a bad word.
I don't think. Oh, did you? No, we did great.
No, half-assed.
Oh,
No.
that's fine. For everyone else, thank you so much. We'll put everyone's information down below, and I thank you guys so much for hopping on. And if you have any questions for future episodes of the podcast, so I don't have to, go on like rage Facebook comments with people, you can go to bestmadevideos.com/podcast guest, and we have all the vendor categories. Nobody uses this survey. It's a great survey. We have all the vendor categories, and you can just select a vendor and leave a question, and we can put together one of these roundtables. So thank you guys again, and I hope everyone stays safe.
Thank you, Reed.
Thank you.